2+2 Pokercast. I am your host, A. Schwartz, alongside our producer, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Hello, boys and girls.
And our co-host, Mr. T. Chan. How are you, Terrence?
Good. I'm not going to complain this week about how sore I am. You guys already know it. I'm sure you're tired of hearing it, but I'm 2 weeks away, so feeling very good about it. It's the Vancouver weather has cooperated by sucking, which makes me feel less bad. Like always, whenever I have these fights in like mid-September or something like that, like I'm really upset that I'm not, at the beach or out in the mountains or hiking like that. But it's just been like rainy and shitty, like classical Vancouver weather. And I get to bury myself in a basement rolling around with sweaty men and not feeling bad about it at all.
So that's your tough weeks done? You coasting now, or what happens?
Probably one more real week of training. A taper can be like 7 days. So we hit it really hard last night. We did I think an hour of kickboxing, about 45 minutes of straight wrestling along the cage, and then about another hour of just like endless circuits. So that was really tough. I didn't sleep so great last night, so this week's not fun either because I have to kind of do it while losing a few pounds. Get a few pounds off of this blubber. And so it'll be tough this week, but it won't be. I don't think it'll be like an insane week. It'll be just a tough week, and then the next week is just cutting weight and chilling out and getting ready.
Okay, I want to get to the tickets. They are out for the fight here in Vancouver.
Yeah, who's in Vancouver? Who's coming out to Vancouver? We know we're getting some visitors from out of town. Some guys we don't normally get to see. It's it was fun. A lot of the poker community is going to be coming out to the fights too.
Yeah. So I see you posted on the Facebook group some of the tickets that you have available. Looks like you got about 35 tickets or so, I guess.
I mean, I can get more. Like that's the thing. Like that, the promoter just gave me a sample because everybody's got friends of different income levels, right? So some people are going to want to be in the nosebleeds as much as you can be in the nosebleeds in an 800 seat theater.
Right.
Right. But some people want to be cage side and potentially have blood and other bodily fluids splashing them around and want to be able to hear and want to be able to yell, hit them in the face loud enough that like everybody can hear. So yeah, I mean, I've hit him in the face. There you go. I'm sure it doesn't matter where MJ's sitting. I can tell you
you're gonna hear it.
That I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I mean, for the baller seats, there's it's $110 cage side, and it's about $58 in the back. So whatever. If you're in Vancouver, you want to hang out, you might spot the 2+2 crowd minus Ross, of course. But a lot of poker players coming out. I won't name drop the poker celebrities that are coming out, but you might run into somebody you've seen on TV at some point. They'll be coming out. So yeah.
What do you got left?
I mean, I've got a bunch left that is on the Facebook page. So I created a Facebook page that I originally made it like a closed page, and now Facebook doesn't let me change it back to like an open page and a public page. So, but if you want, you can just hit me up on Twitter or something like that at @TChanPoker, Poker, and I'll add you in case you want to hang out with Adam or the rest of my supporting crowd. And I appreciate you all, whether you're a Vancouver local or coming in from out of town, or you're just coming in for WCOOP, because of course a lot of people coming in for WCOOP. My buddy Matt Harvalenko, he's going to come up a little bit early, come out of retirement, play some WCOOP, watch the fights, and so Vancouver's obviously one of the most popular WCOOP locations in the world. So there's, I'm excited to run into folks.
Sick name drop. I think I'm going to take. I want the front row. I want to be right up there. But
you've been there, right? I think you've been front row for my fight.
No, I think last time we were like third row.
Third row. So you didn't get splattered.
No splattered.
I was at a UFC in July, not the big one, not 200, but the night before, and this dude, like, I'm sitting right behind, I think it's the blue corner, and he's had a tough first round. He comes back to his corner, he just turns around and like hawks a loogie full of spit and blood. Like it lands like, I mean, it didn't hit me, and it wasn't really that close, but it wasn't far either. Like, when somebody like hawks a loogie, like even if it's 4 feet away with you and it's just full of blood and whatever, like it's just like, wow, I'm really cage side. Yeah.
So I'm at a movie this week. It's War Dogs. I don't know if you guys go to many movies or not. It's Jonah Hill movie.
Like 3 movies a year, and usually only because my girlfriend drags me.
Yeah, you're not
how do you get to movies with your schedule with shuttling kids around to hockey?
I go to late movies. I'll just take off my kid or by myself, whatever. It's kind of a thing that I like to do. Just go, and the movies are really cheap and they're close to where I live. So, but anyway, so I'm at War Dogs, which was pretty enjoyable. But there's a scene where Jonah Hill's character hits on some girl in a club, and it turns out she's walking ahead of her boyfriend, and her boyfriend hears Jonah Hill hitting on her, and camera wheels around, and it's Bilzerian. He's got another cameo, and he knocks Jonah Hill on his ass, and there's a wrestling fight, whatever. He had one line or something, but I got a kick out of that. He's got himself into a bunch of different movies lately.
Did he subsequently Instagram about it?
Did he? He might have.
I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't even have Instagram, so I wouldn't know. But I assume there was some Instagram on there at some point.
Yeah, he's been in lots of action movies. I saw him. He did a cameo in a pretty bad Denzel Washington movie I watched a few months ago.
Or do you think like he pays for them, or do you think like
well, there was the story about Lone Survivor where he did. I think he paid $1 million or something to be in that, and then he sued,
really?
Or he invested maybe $1 million into the film, and then. But the agreement was that he was going to have a much bigger role than he ended up having, so he ended up suing. That was a couple of years ago, but Taylor Kitsch, I think, was in the lead in that movie. But so anyway, it's fun to see him get his way into some of these movies. So we had the Pokercast Fantasy Football League finalized. We've got 14 guys again this year. Lots of listeners jumping in. That's a lot of fun. So I know you guys don't play fantasy football, but what happens is when you create a team in one of these fantasy football leagues, you pick a name for your team and you try and make it funny and something ironic or whatever, football related. So there's tons and tons of different really good football names that you can you make fun of and make your name out of. But I was thinking. It's a Pokercast. It's a poker fantasy football league that we're having. So why not, put a poker spin on it and, figure out some names for fantasy football teams with a poker slant. So one of them was, and there's a big rage about getting rid of kickers in fantasy football leagues. A lot of people don't like kickers because it's sort of random or whatever. But so one of the team names I suggested was My Kicker Doesn't Play, which, I don't know if that's gonna.
Do you have the rim shot drop, Ross?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, nice rim shot. Make America Internet Poker Again. To all the girls Doyle's loved before.
I don't get that one. Explain that one to me. To all the girls
I've loved before. I don't know. He's always inappropriate, Doyle, on Twitter. So Huckleberry's Seed.
Huckleberry's Seed?
Huckleberry's Seed, yeah. So I put it out on Twitter. I got a couple of them. Poker News had a good one, but I had blockers. That was good. Because it's the generic excuse. Why you got your money in bed? I had blocker. Charlie FFC, Pocket Jacksonville Jaguars. Sean King Jack Goff. I think Jack Goff's a race car driver. I don't quite get that one, but it's kind of funny. And Kelly Chapman, Kaepernick in a chair, which I thought was good given Colin Kaepernick's been in that.
I think I managed to go like 5 or 6 days without actually knowing what Colin Kaepernick did. I kind of made a specific effort to it, but of course I have social media like most other people, so I just keep seeing people's opinion on what Kaepernick did, and so it was like I was trying to construct like this mental model in my head of what actually was going on, and I just had no idea because like there was just like random stuff about racism, and I was like, is he a racist or is he not? It was kind of funny it was kind of fun like to be in my brain, like actively trying not to know things. I mean, I do this all the time. I actively try not to know like Trump things too, and other things like that. So the Kaepernick thing was fun, but I think it finally like broke the bubble maybe like 2 days ago, or I don't really know when it happened, but yeah, that's really like a fun sort of like celebrity game that I play. Is how
long it takes you to figure out what's going on.
What's the long? There's well, speaking of football, I mean, this is timely. There's a pool they run every year, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's open only to Americans, and it's basically how long can you go without knowing who won the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah.
And you know, for like 95% of the population, you last maybe like an hour after the game, right? But like, it's always down to like 5 people with like 6 weeks forward or something like that, and then like one guy will see the whatever Super Bowl champion, the 2015 Super Bowl champion T-shirt, and be like, fuck it, I'm out. It's sort of like the old Seinfeld masturbation episode. It's like, you self-declare, like it's on the honor system.
Right.
But it's like cool. I play this game with like every pop culture reference, but I'm only playing it with myself.
Yeah, you're the only one.
Yeah, I'm the only one playing. So I played the what the hell did Colin Kaepernick do game, and I finally lost like maybe 48 hours ago.
He either murdered several people or he sat down during a song.
Well, I knew it wasn't that. I knew he definitely didn't murder a bunch of people, because I don't think there would be so many different opinions about whether it was a good or a bad thing, or it should be a big deal or not. I figured he didn't do something tremendously illegal. No. But there were a few things going on. I thought he might have I thought he may have just made a political statement about like cops or black people or something, or my first thought was that he said something really racist. That was the sort of theme that kept jumping into my head, because people kept talking about racism and double standards and stuff like that. So, yeah.
All right, let's move on. We've got some stuff to get to today. Our schedule's a bit screwed up. Because of the fact of you're training for your fight. I'm right in the middle of tryouts for my kid here. He's 11, but it's quite serious, of course, in Canada with hockey tryouts. It's pretty.
Did you get him the new goalie pads yet?
Funny you mentioned that. He needs new pads, so I have to go. But here's the thing: you can't get new pads and then just throw him into tryouts with new pads. He's got to get used to them. They're a different weight. They react differently. So we're gonna get through the tryouts here with his old pads, and then get him some new ones. But he did survive the first. So here in where we live, it's a pretty big association. There's 1,000 kids here. So playing for one of the rep teams, or the A teams here, they call them, is a pretty big deal, because there's a lot of kids trying out. So there was 12 goalies, and they've cut it down to 9. He's a goalie, so he's still hanging in there. So that's
how many making the cut?
There's 4 rep teams, they call them, so 2 goalies a team in Pee Wee, so that's 8 goalies.
Oh, so he's on the stone bubble.
He's currently on
the stone bubble. They are hand for hand in goalie. They are hand for hand in goalie. They are puck for puck right now.
Coach, would you when you take this shot, would you stop? And we are now puck for puck.
We are puck for puck.
Indeed. All right, situation today. We had some situations I thought were interesting last week. I ran into another one this week, and T, I want to get your opinion on this. So you know how bad beat jackpots work, right? These are player-funded bad beat jackpots in casinos to bring traffic in when you get a very good hand.
For those who don't know, just real quick, in case you like play online, like only on Stars for the rest of your life, what they do is they actually take like an extra rake. Right. And they'll throw that in the bad beat jackpot. And sometimes, this is the biggest scam of all, sometimes the casinos even take like some of that money in order to like admin the bad beat jackpot. They're generally considered to be very bad for the games, because like it tends to usually only be low limit games, like say 10-20 limit and below, or like 1-2-0 limit and that kind of thing. And so you've harder
to beat those games.
Yeah, it's even harder to beat those games. So they take an extra rake. But go on.
So, but there's always a qualifier, and the qualifier of the bad beat. So basically, if you get a really good hand beat by a better hand, this is good for you, because
aces full and hold them. It tends to be like, sometimes it's like aces full of jacks or something, or in Omaha it might be like quad eights or something like that.
Exactly.
You have to like lose with like quad eights, which how often does that happen?
And then you get half the jackpot and whatever. It gets okay. So that's how bad beats work. Well, there was a controversy here in Vancouver at the Edgewater Casino, and what happened was one guy had 10 jack of spades, another guy had ace queen. They go to the flop, and the flop is ace king queen of spades. So guy flops royal. Other guy flops top and bottom pair. And long story short, queen on the turn, ace on the turn.
Right.
Guy makes aces full on the turn. So he's beat the qualifier. But of course they're playing the hand at whatever. They get it in, I guess. And a queen comes in the river. Now, typically in bad beat jackpots,
you have to have both cards
have to play. You can't just have like a one card straight flush. The other guy has another, the top end and the bottom end, whatever. Both of your cards have to play.
Yeah, this is to prevent the situation where the board comes ace, 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 deuce, and one guy has like a king and the other guy has a jack, and they both have 4 aces with a king and 4 aces with a jack.
Right.
So that's why they say both cards must play.
Right. So in this situation, we have a player who is using both cards. Right. He's got aces full of queens.
Yeah.
And the casino
using both cards. Yeah.
The casino decided not to pay him. So now they're trying to resolve it. But your thoughts, T? Do you think that qualifies as a bad beat?
It's absolutely a qualifier. If I were that guy, I'm going straight to BCLC. Like pronto. Like I am at the offices of the British Columbia Lottery Corporation before they're dealing the next hand. Like that's an easy bad beat jackpot qualifier, unless there's actually something written down that if the board. I don't even know how you would phrase this, right? Like, you'd have to say that.
This is good. It's excellent that you point that out, because there is a phrase that says both cards must beat the board.
Oh, if it says most cards must beat the board, like beat the board is sort of a bad terminology. Right. Like I would say improve the board. Like you must be able to. Yeah, that's still awkward because I think his cards, like.
So I'll give you a second to think about it. Here's what I did. I called Matt Savage, and I said, "Hey Matt, what do you think of this situation?" His first reaction was that he doesn't think that's a bad beat. So he said, "Here, hang on, I'll call the Commerce and find out." So he calls the Commerce, gets a hold of them, and they say they pay 100% in that spot. And he said it's analogous to 3 aces on board, one player has pocket kings, one player has pocket queens, and a queen comes on the river, right?
That's not analogous. I guess it would be if because like you could say that guy
has 1 or 2 cards, right?
Yeah. Like it would be this having pocket queens are the same as having queen jack kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but they said they absolutely pay in that situation. So, my reaction is that the rules say he must play both cards. And he is playing both cards. He could say, okay, here are my 2 cards. I play them. Look, aces full of queens.
And it is the best possible hand that he could play.
Right. That's key too. So anyway.
Yeah, like that's the thing. If he has, like if the board is ace, ace, queen, queen, king, or let's say it's like ace, ace, queen, queen, 10 or something like that, and he has like ace 10, he can't just say like, oh, I have aces full of 10s and I qualify with that, because aces full of 10s is not the best hand he could actually have. The best hand he could have is ace full of queens. But here, I think he should get paid. Like I said, regardless of how the word is ruled, like I said, I'm still filing a dispute with the commission like pronto.
Okay, we've been talking about this, guys. We've got a new partner here at the Pokercast. We're going to bring in our old friend Warren Karp. He is a VP over at Sharkscope, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what we're going to be doing with Sharkscope. Welcome back to the Pokercast, Warren.
Thank you very much. It's been quite some time, as it turns out, having stepped away from the everyday grind of tournament poker and coming on the show 3 or 4 times a year. I've now taken a behind-the-scenes role and am working for Sharkscope.com.
Fantastic. We're excited here about the partnership. Can you just, for those that don't know, Warren, give us a little overview for what SharkScope is and what the service does.
Yeah, basically, it's an opportunity for you to track your opponents. So for 10 years now, we've been tracking online poker tournaments on, at this point, it's 50 plus networks that we do at this point. So say you're sitting at a table and a guy comes onto the table, you don't recognize the screen name, you have no idea how the guy plays. You can go in to SharkScope, input his screen name, and you'd come out with a history, so to speak, compartmentalized of a lot of different factors, and you'd be able to find out what kind of player you're up against.
Now, SharkScope allows people to do this for free each day. There's a free component to SharkScope. I believe it's 5 free searches a day. That's right,
Adam. If you just register your email address and open up an account, every time the day rolls around, you'll have an opportunity to get 5 free searches. And then if you add the Facebook component to it and you sign in with Facebook, we'll give you another 5 free searches. So you can get 10 free searches a day without even subscribing to the site. Now, that doesn't mean we wouldn't like you to subscribe to the site and find it even that more useful. And we have different levels of signing in: the bronze, the silver, the gold, and the platinum packages. And a lot of times, a lot of people will take some of the higher packages, which gives you more searches per day, because they add our SharkScope desktop HUD to the mix. And that's the only HUD that's on the market that is a poker tracker. And it also includes SharkScope statistics.
I wanted to ask you, Warren, when you're talking about these 5, or in the case of Facebook, 10 free sign-ins, are you getting, what kind of stats are you getting access to? I assume it's obviously like sort of in the money and ROI percentages for people, but what else are you getting when you're in these searches?
There's a lot of different columns. There's profit history, there's average profit, the average stake that they play, their ability, their form, and there are other statistics that you can add as well. You'd have to go through them all, but there is an opportunity to know what country they're coming from, what networks that they play on. We have a little fun thing called achievement points here, where you get to turn over and flip over cards and see how you're doing as far as that's concerned. A lot of people play the sit and goes, Terrence, and we have, the 100 streaks, the best 500 streaks, things on that level, so you can find out if the guy is real or not.
And that stuff's all included in the free searches?
No, that's in the advanced searres.
Oh, okay.
Those are in the advanced searches. But in the free searches, you are getting, most of whatever we talked about in terms of the average OI, the profit history count, the average profits, things on that. Well, and that's if they've opted in. And of course, opting in is the key, right? If someone opts out, number one, that tells you a lot of things. They don't want you to see their stats, and you have to kind of think about why, and maybe because they are one of the sharks. But a lot of people do opt in, and you get to see all of that information. And a lot of reasons they opt in is because they want to track their own information as well.
So, Warren, do people have to opt in for them to see, for you to see their information, or are they default opted in and they go in and opt out?
No, they're not opted in when they sign up. We do show certain columns of information, and you'll be able to go onto the site and see what those columns are. And then the rest of the columns will say opt in, and this way you know that player has not opted in yet. He just wants to see a couple of his statistics. And then once he opts in, not only does he get the opportunity to see it all, but he also gets entered into our $10,000 weekly giveaway for opted-in players. And what happens is we'll give an opportunity for a prize icon to come up against their screen name. So if they do a search on their screen name, they'll see a prize icon come on, and all they have to do is email support. And once they do that, they'll have an opportunity to either choose a $312 one-year gold subscription or $100 cash.
Ah, nice. A lot of people I can hear them asking, this follows all sites T&Cs. I'm assuming that all Absolutely. Sites are cool with this.
Absolutely. Not only are they cool with it, and I won't say all sites are done this way, but most of the sites give us a data feed.
Okay.
So we're, that goes to our accuracy. And, I'm not saying that we don't miss a tournament every now and then. I mean, we do track millions a day. So, for the most part, it's there, but, 99.9%, I guess.
Well, that's great to hear. Looking forward to the partnership, Warren. I think we're going to, you wanted to do a giveaway of a full year subscription. This is a $312 value, I believe, and we're going to do a giveaway to the listeners.
Yeah, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it every broadcast coming up, and what we'll do is we'll come up with some questions that you can only have answered if you visited the site. So we want you to go out there, take a look at the site, crawl around all the different pages. We have leaderboards and tools and apps that we think might be good for you, some third-party stuff that's out there. The opportunity to check your own statistics. There's ways to find a specific tournament and go into our tournament selector section. We always have bonuses and achievement challenges and things on that level. So go ahead and tool around the site, and then when you come back next time on the next broadcast, we'll get you guys to ask a few questions, and the person who can answer them, we'll give away a gold subscription for a year.
Fantastic. Thanks, Warren. Really appreciate it. Great talking to you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, it's great talking to you guys, and look forward to talking to you through the year.
All right, let's get on to some In Case You Missed It.
How did he miss the open goal? 6x4, and he comes up 0. Oh, no! Oh, yes, he missed it.
He's missed it! How on earth did he miss that?
In case you missed it, Phil Galfond is opening an online poker site. He announced on his blog that it was a really cool way to announce it. He said a poker site should, and I wanted to read through some of the things that he wrote, and he said it's titled "A Poker Site Should Value All Poker Players. It should value the casual player for the money he's willing to put on the line to play a game he loves, for choosing poker over their hobbies, and for choosing their site over other sites." I think that's important because, where there's this talk about catering to a certain segment of the player pool, and it's just, you can cater to everybody, and I think that's what Phil's trying to say here. It goes on and on and on. You can read it if you Google his blog, but a bunch of really cool stuff. And at the end, he says, I want a fair, honest, transparent poker site that believes in the dream that I've lived. I'm going to give it my best shot, was how he ended it. So Run It Once is, of course, his training site, but it's also going to be the name of the poker site. Pretty excited. Terrence, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, this blew up in a big way that almost surprised me. Obviously, Phil is one of the most respected names in the game. He's considered, he's like sort of been the end boss for so many years and just been a hero to so many people. But even given that, I was surprised at how popular this was. As we speak, 535 retweets and 1,646 likes, which I don't know if I've ever seen that.
True, yeah.
Anything, honestly, anything poker related, right? And when you consider some people like Daniel Negreanu, I'm including people like Daniel Negreanu who have literally 1 million, or I don't know if it's 1 million, but a lot of followers. This is tremendous traction for him right off the bat, and it speaks to a couple of things. First of all, like I said, Phil's standing in the community, and second of all, the nature of what he wrote on his blog at Run It Once, and he hits home very much in a way, and the sort of unspoken, the unspoken, the thing that was said but not spoken, I guess, is sort of like, look, we've had a lot of shady poker sites in the past that have been dishonest, and then we also had one giant behemoth that we loved for a long time, and then became this thing that's sort of stopped in a lot of people's eyes being responsive to the poker community, of course being PokerStars, becoming a public company and no longer sort of embodying the dream. And you see this a lot less in the PokerStars, their branding and their methodology and their marketing. They're no longer catering to the dream of yeah, you can be a professional poker player. It used to be Moneymaker and Raymer. Like, you could be one of these guys, or you could be a pro. And there were all the team pros, and they did this for a living. They had team online pros. They had, when you're making champions out of guys like say Nano Noko,
Right.
that's embodying the dream of a professional poker player, and that's stopped. And now it's sort of about like, play with this celebrity, play with that celebrity, gamble it up in a spin and go, win a trip to whatever. And it's very different. Yeah. Be like Alexander to win many zeros.
Fishy.
And now it's very different. This is Galfon's sort of attempt to create what he thinks is not just a player-friendly thing, but I believe that Phil Galfond can create a very player-friendly, responsive website. The question is, can Phil Galfond and the guys at Run It Once create a player-friendly, responsive, symbiotic, and effective and profitable poker site? And that's what I think people want to know. And I think the reason this has gotten so much traction is because it sort of seems like almost a last gasp at online poker. I mean, while we wait for California and New York and all these places to establish regulated online poker, which will still be state by state anyway, the last gasp is sort of in the rest of the world. Well, PokerStars is less and less catering towards these players in this way. Is Phil the savior? Is he the hero? And a lot of people are thinking maybe he can be the savior, maybe he can be the hero.
Logistically, it is a monumental task. I don't think there's any question of that. I think they know that. In the era that online poker is now, it's much different than it was, back when PokerStars started, back when Party Poker, Full Tilt all came along. Run It Once Poker is going to launch in the first quarter of 2017 in markets similar to PokerStars, so not underground shady type thing in the U.S. where we send you money via Gulf.
Not Bovada.
It's not Bovada. So, just there's so many aspects to this business that you look at and go, wow, that's a huge challenge. That's government licensing that PokerStars has to go through. Now, this is a big company with huge resources, so to start from zero and go to 100 miles an hour, I don't think is realistic, and I don't think they're going to be able to do that. I don't think they think they're going to be able to do that. As far as, hey, we're going to open up shop in every regulated market on in the first quarter of 2017, right? So
that's a very quick way to go broke.
Yeah, exactly. You just be bleeding money so hard. But even something that you have a lot of experience with customer support. You start offering, and what they're going to do is they're going to offer in, like I said, markets similar to PokerStars. So how many languages do you have there? Many, many different languages. You need support in all kinds of different languages. You need a support infrastructure. You can imagine how hard of a task that's going to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you bring up a good point about the international flavor. I mean, Galfond is a great brand himself. Like I said, he's tremendously respected. To what extent does his name carry value in Estonia or Singapore or Japan or all of these kind of places that Stars offers, and that Stars has already created a brand for itself? I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe he's just as popular in Southeast Asia as he is in the U.S. It's I don't know. There's so many questions.
So that's a marketing challenge, right? So that's
a huge
another challenge. Yeah, a marketing challenge that they have. And I know that these guys are smart people. They're not. We're not telling them anything they don't know. So, and they're going ahead and feel that they can be successful. So I hope they are. Personally, I think it's a great idea. I'm happy for the poker community if this does, if they are successful and be able to pull it off and slowly grow. But I guess one of my main question is, do you think, Terrence, that a site can grow sort of organically, slowly in this era in 2016 when, you look back to PokerStars and how they did it and Full Tilt, how they did it, the two different approaches? Party Poker was a different approach. Do you think it's viable to have the growth that those sites had in this day and age?
Well, so you asked two questions there, right? Which is, can it grow sort of slowly and organically, and then can it become the way that Stars and Full Tilt, et cetera, like the big hitters of the mid odds can go. And the answer to your first question is unquestionably yes. Like, yes, it can grow slowly or organically. Like, they're off to a great start. They've got the buy-in of the poker community. I have a hard time believing that any of the 1,600 people who liked the tweet, aren't going to put some money on the site. They're definitely going to do that, and they're going to tell their friends, and they're going to, because they believe in Phil and they believe in the sort of the things that he said and his sort of manifesto on this. Can they become what Full Tilt and Stars were, or Party Poker, or even 888, or the sort of the B and C tier sites? Can they be what those guys were in the mid 2000s? I don't know. I mean, they would have to actually fundamentally change the way that poker is played and viewed now, because what we had in 2000 was the moneymaker effect and all the ESPN and all that, and everybody wanted to play poker and everybody thought it was the coolest thing ever. And now you just don't hear about it. I mean, you and I both hang out in random circles now where there's, and I think both of us realized that like 10 years ago, everybody was asking us about poker and everybody talked about poker. And now you just don't get that as much. And it's not the it thing anymore. That's not to say it can't become the it thing, but the reason it became a lot of the it factor was, in large part due to Stars' marketing push in the mid 2000s. Yeah, they got a little lucky with Moneymaker and Raymer and ESPN and all that kind of stuff, but they built a lot of that own luck, and they sort of pushed it, and they the momentum just kept going and going and going all the way up until the UIGA and then Black Friday, which kind of quashed it. But for poker to ever reach that, like, what can trigger sort of the second renaissance? And then that's what you really have to look at, right? Like, Phil Galfon's name brand alone is certainly not going to trigger the second renaissance. It has to be a fundamental paradigm shift in the way that poker is looked at today. I don't know what it is, and maybe those guys are more creative than I am, but I'm skeptical, but there's room for optimism.
One of the other big challenges is software, and I don't believe it's a skin. I believe it's a standalone site. Right. You've got to start.
Phil talks a lot about software in there, right? So, I mean, he talks about software, and he talks about user experience. So I'd have to think that they're building something from the ground up, or at least from an existing platform, and making a lot of improvements.
Which is kind of exciting when you look at a poker player doing it, right? Like, you look at software that's written by marketing guys or changed by whoever to suit their needs. But when you get a poker player writing software, I think that's exciting. Or not, well,
Stars writing. Yeah, Stars was very much successful for that reason, because Isai was a poker player. Like, he was an amateur. He wasn't certainly Phil Galfond, but he was a computer guy who enjoyed playing poker, right? Like, who played a lot of poker, and he brought guys like me on board and others like the late John Harkness, and guys who were really, really, really hardcore and into this stuff, and said, like, what do we need? What features do we need? How should this look? Obviously the game has changed so much from, when I helped out with Stars in like 2000, 2001 to what they are now. Like, who knows? Maybe this will be a website where HUDs are included, and there's all this information, and you have sort of tactical HUDs. Maybe they can come up with different game variants that other sites aren't willing to do. Maybe they're willing to do open face. I mean, I think that would be a mistake to do things like open face, but maybe the various mixed games and draw games, and come up with some creative ideas. What's the next Zoom poker or Rush poker, as it were? Because that was something that changed the game. That was an absolute game changer. Running MTTs and satellites, you talk about 8 and 9 years before that was a game changer. Is there another game changer? Is there a killer app, because sort of as they say in Silicon Valley back in the days, for poker, for online poker? Is there something that can really spur a renaissance that I talked about from the software side? I don't know, but if there is, maybe these guys can come up with it.
Looking forward to it. I'm very excited. I hope it's successful, as I said, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it in the next few weeks.
Once we know more, once we have some more public information about it, because literally the only piece of information we have is that Phil Galfond is launching a poker site. Like we just spent 20 minutes talking about that one sentence, right? And we wish, obviously, like, and the world is holding its breath for more information on what kind of poker site it'll be.
And hopefully we'll get Phil on in the next week or two to answer some questions and give us his outlook. All right, we're going to take a break here. We'll be back on the other side. We've got some more in case you missed it to get to, some mailbag stuff and some other things. So you're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast. Keep it right here.
Hey, poker fans, don't forget about the 2plus2.com digital magazine. Each month, a wide array of poker professionals and media write fascinating articles about the game you love. Want to learn about big blind versus small blind hand ranges? How about optimal Jeopardy daily double strategy? Topics like those and many others are covered every month. Head on over to 2plus2.com to see what the magazine has to offer this month.
What's up, guys? If you're serious about online poker tournament statistics, you got to check out Sharkscope.com. They've been the leader in online poker tournament tracking for over 10 years. If you've ever had the experience of being in an online tournament and being worried that your opponent might be a dangerous shark, Sharkscope.com will tell you. And your first 5 searches every day are free. If you log in with your Facebook account, they'll double that to 10 searches. So get on over to Sharkscope.com, track your stats, and improve your win rate today.
Welcome back to the 2+2 Pokercast. All right, let's get into some more in case you missed it. In case you missed it, there's an arrest warrant out for Ted Forrest. This is poker player Ted Forrest. He apparently, he's charged with 1 count of drawing and passing a check without sufficient funds with the intent to defraud and 1 count of theft at Wynn Las Vegas Casino, according to a criminal complaint. Both charges are felonies, carrying fines and possible prison time. The defendant is identified as William Edward Forrest in the complaint, which claims he had insufficient funds when he tried to pass 2 checks totaling $215,000 between October and May 2012-2013. His attorney says he doesn't believe that Forrest owes the casino any money. Forrest was extended a line of credit to play on a casino marker. We believe this is a long-standing civil dispute, he says, and now that he's in a dispute with them, they've moved to prosecute. According to the Clark County District Court papers, Forrest signed a confession of judgment in 2013 that stated he owed Wynn $270,000. He agreed to make 10 monthly payments of $10,000 and 1 payment of $170,000. Court records indicate he had not complied with that. Interesting how they deal with markers and everything, Terrence, in Las Vegas. This is, so for those that don't know what a marker is, you go in, you have a line of credit, say at the Wynn Casino, and you sit at a table and go, hey, I want $10,000 on my account, and you've already set up an account with credit at the casino. The pit boss will bring you the $10,000. You can then pay the marker back, so you don't incur any further charges, or I guess keep the chips and hit the wicket. But $270,000 is a pretty big deal. I don't think they give markers for playing, poker and cash games. So this is probably a casino marker. So, but Ted not doing too well with the Wynn Casino.
No, and obviously rumors of Ted being in financial trouble generally are always abound at the World Series and stuff like that. So, I mean, sort of clearly, innocent before proven guilty, but also if we're going to break out the cliches, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So yeah. I don't think there's any, the fact that he signed a confession in 2013 saying that he owed $270,000 and that he, it looks like the issue isn't whether he owes them money. I mean, I guess it is. I mean, it's sort of weird. Like, why did he said he'd made these. He says he'd paid he says he definitely owes the money, and now they are taking him to criminal court. Like, is that sort of what's going on here? And
yeah, I guess he didn't follow through on what he agreed to. So again, these are felonies, which I don't know. We could get into a long discussion about should passing an $80, and they are. Like, if you go to you write a check in a Nevada grocery store, I think this is what I believe anyway, for $80 for groceries, and it bounces. I mean, that's you can be arrested for that, which isn't what we grew up dealing with here in Canada. That's not a jailable offense,
right?
So,
you just get fines, and you pay interest and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously it depends. Like I assume the term intent to defraud. I'm sure we have a lot of listeners on the show that can fix this for me. But like,
lawyers
intent to defraud kind of implies like he meant to do this, right? Like, you know, he was like he knew he didn't have the money and he still wrote the check for the $215,000 anyway, which it's a hard thing to prove, but it's possible.
Ted gets he gets a
man. Did this dude just did this?
That's what he gets. In case you missed it, I don't know if you watched any of the the EPT Barcelona feed from PokerStars guys over the last week.
EPT, RIP.
RIP EPT. But it was pretty. The heads up duel was pretty awesome, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but if you didn't, if you ever want to go back and watch, a final or a heads up battle, this might be the one to watch. It was pretty fascinating. There was a young pro from Poland who got heads up with the German guys. The guy from Poland was Sebastian Malik, M-A-L-E-C, Malik, I believe. His opponent was a German, Uri Reichenstein, and they had a long battle. But there was a couple interesting things happen in this battle. First of all, it was on, I believe it was Czech, on the Czech version of the PokerStars.tv, the Czech feed. The commentator was taking some pretty offside shots at the kid.
Really?
What's that?
Who was the commentator?
I'm not sure. I don't know the guy. I'd never heard his name, but he was a commentator.
Like the third EPT guy, not Hardigan or Stapes, but another British guy. I can't remember.
No. It was in a different language. It was in Czech, I believe.
So, I see. Okay.
It was the feed, yeah, and I don't know if there's a Czech-Polish rivalry or what's going on, but the Czech guy was pretty rude to the kid. But the main thing that I found amazing was, first of all, the final hand that came down was pretty cool. Of course, they're playing heads up. The kid has ace-3 of hearts. The German guy has 9-10. It comes queen, jack, blank, 2 hearts, and there's a bet raise. The turn is the 8 of hearts, so the German guy makes a straight while the kid makes a nut flush. And then on the river, the kid shoves full pot, basically has a pot-sized bet on the river. The German guy checks, the kid shoves, and the German guy he starts talking. And if you watch the kid while he's all in, it just reeks of strength. It's one of those. Right. You look at the guy, you go, he's got it 100%.
He's so comfortable right now.
He's so comfortable, and the German guy knows it, and he's got a big hand, right? Heads up, straight's a pretty big hand.
Pretty hard to fold, but he tells himself, like, I have to fold. Like, you have it all the time here, basically, is what he says, and the way you're acting. And then the kid says, he makes actually a pretty good comment. He says, maybe you have 9-10, which kind of makes the German think twice about how comfortable he was. But he also says, if you call, it's going to be all over, baby. Which I thought was awesome. Because classic, especially since it's a 21-year-old kid who was, let's do the math. What, 2016? What year was it?
5.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, like he was like 8 years old when Scotty Wynn won. That was so good. What props to you, young man.
Totally, because the ball, like, you're going to win his kid's 21. He's going to win his first EPT, a huge cash. He gets it all, and he's got the nuts, and he thinks it through enough to say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say, if you call,
maybe the balls would be doing it with just the dry ace, but yeah, that would be. I think
it would look strong if he did it, right? So I don't know if reverse, but whatever reverse. I don't know. I just thought it was a really cool moment, and if you want to check out some poker footage, head on over to the PokerStars channel to check that out, because it's pretty interesting. All right, let's get on to some forum stuff. From the Where Do You Pokercast thread, 48 Spectrum says, could use some Pokercast run good. Just sign up for an Ironman UK. 2.4 miles swim, 112 miles bike, and then a marathon before getting to the pub in July 2017. Which, I mean, you're in the most amazing physical condition, Terrence, you've ever been. Do you think you could do an Ironman no problem right now?
No.
I know.
I'm not.
Look
I
at
mean,
the shape you're in.
first of all, I'm not good at swimming, so that's sort of a prerequisite. Like I'm not a
You
very
don't have to
good
be
swimmer.
fast.
No, I can't open water swim. Like I would probably just drown. Like
Really?
I probably would. Yeah, I mean, didn't need to. So 48K Spectrum. He was the guy who he also listens to the Pokercast while he's literally running marathons. So yeah, definitely, I am the number 2 endurance athlete at best
Of the
in that
Pokercast.
form. So yeah, like no, I can't do iron. Like first of all, like I mean, MMA and endurance isn't like an endurance sport. Like it only lasts 15 minutes, right? So you're not trying to build up insane aerobic strength. Otherwise, you lose out on power. Like these endurance athletes, like have a lot of endurance, but they don't have a lot of strength and power, right? In general, at least at the elite level. And so they, it's nice to have like a gas tank that goes for days, but you also need to like be strong enough to pick guys down and you pick guys up and throw them down or hit them with kicks or punches so hard that you actually can knock them out and hurt them. So, no, I mean, I got no shot. And even if I did, like, even if I could swim, there's no way I could do the 2.4 mile swim, 112 miles on a bike, and then 26 miles on foot. Not
Don't
a chance.
forget the pub.
I couldn't do any of those things. Yeah, and the pub would be worse because I hate being around drunk people.
You don't think you can do any of the 3 Ironman?
I'm very well. I know I can't swim 2.4 miles. I don't even know how long that is.
In a pool?
I'm pretty sure I can't. Like without say like my feet ever touching the bottom, which if you do that in open water means you drown. No, I'm not a very good swimmer. It's funny. My grandfather swam to freedom, basically from communist China.
Come on.
He swam to Hong Kong. Yeah, if he swam, there's like a channel, and it's not gigantic, but like I've been there. And like I mean, it was the 60s. People were doing crazy.
I need this story. This is ridiculous. Tell me the story as you know it.
I mean, yeah, like we should have my dad on sometime so he could tell the real story. But yeah, my grandpa was in great shape. When I was a kid, he installed like a chin-up bar, right? And this is a man in his 70s. He swam until the week he died. I mean, he had a weird heart condition, and so he had like some weird heart condition where like the blood actually like flowed backwards the way that you're supposed to in a human heart. And yeah, it was funny because anytime he went to like the hospital, like you would have all these medical students around because they'd be like, "Look at this weird guy." But no, I come from good swimming genes. I just don't have them. My grandpa was, basically had to cross this channel to get from China to Hong Kong, which was of course ruled by the British back in the 60s, and China was going through its communist revolution. My family, I think, this is my understanding, like in the 30s, my family was wealthy because we did whatever, I think shipbuilding or something like that. And so, of course, if you were wealthy when the communists came, boy, that was not a good place to be because, they took all your shit and they punished you for being like an evil capitalist, right? So, then obviously our family was broke and they were at the shit end of the pole. So my grandpa said, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." And he basically rafted/swam to Hong Kong and and raised the family there. And my dad was also a lifeguard. And I can't really do like 3 or 4
And he
laps.
never taught you to swim? He never threw you into the pool when you were like 1 and said swim?
Yeah, when I was like 6, but he wasn't like a good teacher or anything. I mean, like, I know it's funny because I do wish I could swim because it's really great low impact cardio, right? Like when you go out running, you're always damaging your ankles and your knees and your hips and all that kind of stuff when you do whatever, but swimming is much more natural. But no, I could not do I don't think I could do either of the 3 legs. I think the biking would be the one I'm drawing most live on because
you could ride 112 miles. You could just take forever to do it.
Yeah, I would just take forever to do it. The marathon, I mean, like gun to my head, maybe like for $1 million, like I could probably do it. But my feet and ankles aren't very good. Like my hip joints aren't very good. I take a lot of damage in fighting. So, running 26 miles is a challenge for me. Like I could do 10 miles for sure. I'm very confident about that, and I would do it in a decent speed. But 26 miles is a different story.
How far is it from mainland China to how far would that swim be?
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up right now. It
depends where
my dad took me to the part, like we were driving, like we crossed the border over into China, and he was like, "This is where your grandfather like swam, and I looked at it and I was like, well, you can see both ends, but like it's not, it's certainly not comfortable. You got to wait for like
currents.
To be right.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's I'm looking at this now. Like there's this Gulf. Yeah, I mean it's the Shiji Ocean apparently.
There you go.
Yeah, it looks. I don't know. It's hard to tell how wide it is.
I'd like to hear some more on that story. That's pretty cool.
Cool maps. Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll ask my dad. To see my dad tomorrow. So.
From the comments of the show thread, also 48K Spectrum, what the fuck is GTO? I've been away from poker and 2+2 since 2011. Now I'm back and listening to multiple podcasts, and everything is GTO. When did this drop in the conversation? What does it really mean?
That's a fantastic question on the when did it drop in the conversation, because he's absolutely right. Like it's just this term that just showed up out of nowhere.
It's Joey. It's absolutely Joey.
Yeah, he's made it popular.
Yeah. It's popular. Okay,
it's part of the vocabulary now.
I mean, we knew what GTO meant for years. Nobody really used it ever, except in specific poker, situations. But Joey made it
a phrase.
Everything
part of the poker vocabulary.
Right. Well, game theory is this thing that's been around since I don't know, the 50s or something like that. Generally credited to von Neumann. The theory is extended in the 50s by scholars, generally credited to like somebody like von Neumann. And it just basically talks about how people are able to make decisions, or what are the results of people's decisions, right? So a sort of classic, by way of example, like what they teach you, the first example in school is the prisoner's dilemma, right? You, Adam and Ross, I assume you guys know the prisoner's dilemma.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this like the Stanford prison experiment? No,
that is a very different thing. The prisoner's dilemma goes like this. You are accused of a crime, and let's say you and Adam. So, the police have picked you and Adam up on a crime, okay? It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter whether you're guilty, okay? The police go to you and say, listen, if you admit, Ross, that you did this wrong, that you did this crime, we'll go easy on you. And they'll also, of course, go to Adam and say, Adam, if you admit you did this crime, we'll go easy on you. No. And the issue, of course, for the police is if you both proclaim your innocence, then they don't have enough evidence to throw, and they have to let you go, for example, right? And so the problem is that, let's say, Ross, you say, yeah, I was innocent, and then Adam says, no, actually, we did it. What they'll do is they'll give Adam the lighter sentence for being honest, and they'll throw the book at you, Ross, because you lied. So the idea is sort of you're always better off lying, or you're always better off kind of throwing the other guy under the bus. And yet the best outcome, the equilibrium outcome, would be for both you guys to maintain your innocence, because you guys will both get off. But if you can't trust the other guy, then you have to do this. So this is an example of game theory, which is probably a little bit far beyond the scope of this with respect to a poker context. Now, what happens in a poker context is when we talk about game theory optimal, we're trying to find a situation where you can't do any better than the decisions you make. So in the prisoner's dilemma, you can't actually do any better than proclaiming your innocence. And so the idea is, let's say we're talking about all-in pre-flop situations, at 12 big blinds or something like that, and it's blind versus blind. Everybody folds to the small blind. We know beyond a doubt that there's a certain set of hands that we should move all in with say 7 big blinds, okay? So there's all these hands that we should move all in with. And as the big blind, you can't actually do any better than to know what the first guy has, but you can still only break even against it by calling with this certain set of hands. So when we talk about game theory optimal, what that means is that both guys essentially are playing perfectly. And that's all that really means, is that, what is the perfect play in this situation? And this is important in poker because we differentiate it from exploitive strategy. So when it folds around to the small blind, like let's say that the small blind is Gus Hansen. He's somebody that's just super aggro, or he thinks that you're weak. So he's just going to shove with like 90% of his range. Well, now you, of course, call with a much higher percentage of your range than you ever would. In fact, you would call with almost everything in that situation. But if the other guy was folded around the other guy and you think he's like a 90-year-old man who's a super nit and he's going to shove with the top 10% of his range, then you would fold a lot of your hands that you would snap call the other guy with. You might fold like ace-5 or something like that. So it's game theory optimal is considered it should be considered an approach to playing the game, which is basically to say, if I play this way, nobody can do better against me than break even. And in fact, if they do anything other than play game theory optimal, if they do anything other than play perfect, I'll win money from them. But I won't win as much money as if I attempt to exploit them and I'm right. The problem is sometimes the 90-year-old man is really an aggro beast, and sometimes the guy who seems to be some crazy young kid turns out to be a total nit. So you can make mistakes if you attempt to play exploitively, but you cannot make mistakes if you play game theory optimal. So I hope that was I hope that was reasonably understandable.
All right, Cabbage writes in, hey guys, just looking to pick your brains. I'm thinking of taking up live poker full time. First of all, do you have any advice on where the best 2-5, 5-10 action would be in Canada? Preferably games that are 24/7 and run through the weekend as well as weekdays. I'm thinking of splitting my time between Vegas for 6 months, but need another spot for 5 months. Well, I think you're going to have a hard time in Canada finding 2-5, 5-10, 24/7 action of no limit hold'em live. If you find some private games, a schedule that you can work around to get to. And sorry, this is from the comments for the show thread. PLO is big in, say, Calgary and Vancouver. The bigger games tend to be PLO. I haven't played in back east in Toronto, but Montreal, I think you're going to find a bunch of stuff at the Playground Casino. Maybe people who are back east can jump into the comments for the show thread and relate their experience from Montreal. But I think you're going to have a hard time finding that in Canada. Terrence, any thoughts on that?
I have no idea. I kind of wonder why Canada too. I guess just because it's from Vegas and he wants to be in Vegas for 6 months. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the live poker player. I think if there's a place, it probably is Calgary or, like you said, a private game. And go check out last week's interview to learn all about private games.
I know a few people that grind live no limit here for a living, but it definitely doesn't appeal to me. That waiting for
it's definitely got to be
to start,
right? The game's not going to go all the time.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I mean, it depends. Like, if you want to play full time 5-10, I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe 2-5.
Yeah, you'd have to play 2-5 and 1-2 most of the time. Like, it's very rare that 5-10 runs in a casino.
You'd have to. I mean, I would imagine also it would be very helpful if you're good at both No Limit and Pot Limit Omaha.
Yeah, that would be a big thing.
And then, it seems like it's doable in Vancouver, but it just wouldn't be, ideal.
Yeah, it seems like the live grind is something you would want to do at like the Commerce.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Yeah, when he's talking about being 6 months in Vegas, I'm thinking maybe I don't have a firm grasp on it, but the Commerce seems to be the place that I would think so. At.
I would choose LA over Vegas if I had to make my living.
All right, let's take another quick break and we'll come back. We've got a bunch of mail to get to on the other side.
Attention everyone not named Alan Kessler. Have someone you would love to appear on the Pokercast? Have someone you don't want to hear again on the Pokercast? Head on over to the suggested guest thread in the Pokercast forum at 2plus2.com and Adam will do his best to make you happy. P.S. Chainsaw, you can post too.
Sharkscope.com is the tournament tracking software that tracks players' online statistics, including yours. You want to know who the sharks are so you can avoid them? Head on over to Sharkscope and they'll give you 5 free searches a day. And if you log in with your Facebook account, they'll double it to 10 free searches a day. One search could help you avoid a trap that might just win you a tournament. Go to Sharkscope.com and register for an account and then start searching. It's that easy. Sharkscope.com, the best online tournament tracking for over 10 years. Track your statistics, avoid the sharks, and find easier tournaments at Sharkscope.com. Welcome back to the 2plus2 Pokercast. We're going to get into some mail, but guys, how's your Pokedex coming along? You rounding it out nicely? You're rocking the Pokemon Go? What's happening?
I thought that like that ended already. I'm still waiting for it to end. It's not over yet.
It's not over yet. I got my Dragonite last night. You guys are going to be pretty jealous. I got a Dragonite with a great ball. Used a raspberry though.
Oh wow! You got
picking
up all the Pidgeys.
Rocking the Pidgeys.
I'm playing a different app where I'm trying to catch them all.
What's that?
Tinder.
Tinder?
Yeah.
Do we have any Tinder stories? Anything you can share with the listeners?
No, haven't met anybody
Shutting
new.
The listeners down like that.
I mean, it's hard. Like if I had an awesome story, I would share it. But it's
All right.
Not
Maybe
today.
you have to move to Vegas for 6 months. You'll probably have good stories there.
All right, let's get into the mailbag.
And now,
that right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Malcolm? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
Mailbag. Email number 1.
I have one voicemail if you want to hear that.
Perfect.
Hey, this is Zach calling in. I am calling from somewhere in Pennsylvania. I'm driving from Maryland to Ohio at the moment. Just finished the most recent episode, and as always, great job, guys. I really like the new format, the multiple times per week. I hope you keep this, and I hope other listeners agree, because I definitely prefer it. And I really like the interview about the New York Underground games. That's where I first kind of got started playing and taking the game seriously, and kind of hearing these stories was really nice, and also just the format of interviewing, a listener and kind of non-more elite tournament professional was really interesting for me, and I hope you continue to do interviews like it. I had one kind of random question for you guys about live poker and the proximity of good cash games to places to live, because I've kind of found that in most cities where there are numerous cash game professionals, it's often a drive to the casino, or it's typically these casinos and card rooms aren't near where someone would want to live. I personally am a musician and a poker player, and don't really know where my life is going to be in a year, and just kind of thinking broadly about where I'd like to live and where I might want to move to, a city that has a good music scene and 2.5 regular 2.5 no limit cash games and some 1.25 or 2.5 PLO. And something that I really hate is driving, and I will be unlikely that I have a car. So I was wondering if you know of any games, whether in the U.S. or around the world, where they have good games and it's possible to walk or bike to there from where you might want to live. That's kind of a specific question, but I can't really think of a city where that's true. So if either of you guys know of any place, any advice would be much appreciated. Thanks again, and keep up the good work. Bye.
All right, Zach from Pennsylvania. Great question. So let's this is more on the we just talked about Vancouver and different cities in Canada being available for cash games, but around the world, well, he's American, I would assume. So if you think the U.S. With a great music scene where you can get to and from games pretty easily, and he's got a good point. I think a lot of the games around the U.S. will be in Indian casinos, that kind of thing, where they're sort of a drive or long cab ride away from the population centers. You think about L.A. and typically casinos in L.A. are in tougher neighborhoods where they need a tax revenue base, so they get to build casinos in those places like the Commerce, like Bell Gardens, that kind of thing. But as far as cities, New York is one we talked about. I mean, you can get around New York pretty easily, and the subway system's fantastic there. I think a lot of the games are in Manhattan, so you can bounce around there. Great music scene, obviously. T, any other thoughts? I'm trying to think.
It's possible though he doesn't actually want to go into an underground poker game because there are a lot of people are scared.
Right, that's true. Yeah, then it seems to me like you're going to have trouble other than living in Vegas or California.
I mean, Vancouver is actually one. If you think about, you guys are the experts on me on music scene, but if you think about the Edgewater Casino downtown, the new one that they're building, they're both downtown. They're well within walking distance of everything in the downtown area. And then the one other major casino that we have, which is the River Rock, is directly on a SkyTrain line, like a public transit line. So you can easily, I mean, Ross, you play poker and you don't have a car, so you don't even have a driver's license. So, obviously that's around Vancouver strikes me as sort of the one that jumps out at me as the most walkable casinos that I can think of.
And you can play online here too.
The situation I have is probably the best I can think of. It takes me like 15 minutes to walk to the casino, although I haven't done it that much recently. But and I also walk to most of the places I go see music. So Vancouver's pretty GTO in that sense.
Yeah, it's the casinos here are easy to get to, but throw that out there on the forum this is of course Pokercast 426, so put it in the 426 show thread. If you live in a city in North America or anywhere else in the world that you can bike or walk or public transit to a poker game that also has a good music scene and a cosmopolitan vibe and all the other things, that should be like they have these all those websites that show like the when you want to move to a new city, like how good are the schools, how low is the crime. It should be like checkbox for I can get to a 2-5 poker game without being in a car.
How good are the poker games? Yeah.
How good is the 2-5?
Email number 2.
Another Zachary from Oakland writes, "Hello guys, this is my first attempt at a strategy email, so sorry if it's hard to follow. I was recently in the Northeast for a birthday gambling trip and jumped into 2-5 at the Mohegan Sun. I bought into for 300, and I started playing really loose and playing every hand after being card dead for an hour. I just won a huge pot all in pre-flop against a villain with 8-7 suited against his kings, and effective stacks are now 700 to start this hand. I'm on the button with the deuce 4 of spades, and I call a $30 raise from the villain under the gun. His normal raising amount was $20 to $25, and his range from early position is ace, king, and jacks or better. Well, it's very specific.
Yeah.
Players to the flop with about that. I mean, by the way, like if anybody wants to give Zachary shit for calling with a 4 deuces spades, that like an opener with that range is probably exactly what you want to, the exact kind of guy that you want to do that with. 4 players to the flop with about 125 in the pot. The flop comes 8 of diamonds, 5 of spades, 3 of hearts, giving him an open ender and a backdoor flush draw. And villain bets out $40. Both of the other players fold, and I call.
Before you go on, Terrence, I want to ask you quickly. When you flop hands, this can happen with like Queen Jack when it comes King 10. When you flop hands where your draw is made by an ace and there's significant action pre, how much do you discount your outs given how busy the aces are likely to be?
Yeah, I don't know that they're especially busy. Obviously, like this guy's super tight range is a little more ace heavy than most, but I mean, you still also have the implied odds from the fact that if you do hit an ace that, and the other guy does have ace king, then, you're more likely to get paid off. So if the money is, I guess if the money is shallow, you value it a lot more. And if the money is deep, you value it a lot less because the guy'd hit his ace.
So again, the guy flop comes 8-5-3 and he bets 40 and pick it up there, I guess.
Yeah. The turn of the ace of spades right there. Making my straight and a redraw to the nuts. So he now has the wheel with a 4 high flush draw and a gut shot steel wheel draw.
Right.
And I assumed he made top pair, top kicker. With about 200 in the pot, he bets rather large, 150. I put in a min raise to 300, and we get it all in. I show my straight. He shows aces for trips. The river's a brick, and I stack nearly $1,500. I didn't think I played the hand bad until the discussion where all the other people at the table were talking about how unlucky he was, and one player said, "Hey, you'll get it back from him if he's willing to get it all in on the turn like that. You still had so many outs." Here are my questions. Number 1, did I play the hand badly at any time? Number 2, what do you think about putting in raise on the flop with this hand? Number 3, should I wait for a brick to come on the river before getting it all in? Adam, your thoughts on how Zachary played this hand?
Okay, well, it seems to be he was questioning himself on the turn when people were talking to the guy about how unlucky he was and that he'll get it back from this guy because he's a donk. Now, when you're at a poker table and this guy with aces is going to get it in there in that spot clearly, but don't pay too much attention to guys consoling people who lost and what they say, because 90% of the time they're doing that. They're trying to make the guy feel better so he doesn't leave, or to make it a non-shitty experience to be at the table. You know what I mean? Like they're consoling him. They're just saying stuff to make the guy feel better.
Right.
So don't question your play because somebody said something like that.
Exactly. Like, I say this stuff all the time. Like, especially if the other player's a recreational player and he takes like a quote unquote bad beat or he gets coolered, like you just say something that's consoling, because first of all, it's like a kind of a human thing to do, is the guy just lost money, if it feels emotionally bad. But second of all, like you're just keeping the game going. You're doing the right thing for business. And in fact, if you get the feeling that other people are being really earnest about it and like really honest, that gives you more of an insight into how they play. Sure. Right. So if Adam, like you were, I mean, not you specifically, but if somebody was at this table saying, like, I'm going to, I think the other guy played it really badly, like that's actually, and I think you're telling the truth. Like that tells me something about the way that you think about poker. Right. So I would say, you kind of said don't pay attention. I would actually revise that to say do pay attention if you think you can get valuable information about it, but don't question your own decision. The questioning of your own decision should sort of be independent.
And as far as the guy, he had tons of outs. Obviously, he had 10 outs. You're a big favorite when the money went in. So, and your questions are: did I play the hand bad at any time? I think you touched on it, Terrence. A guy with a super nitty under the gun, and you're in position with 150 big blinds, that kind of thing. That seems to be the guy that you can flat there and try and take it away, or flop big and get paid off. If it comes deuce 4-9, you're going to get all the guy's money as well. If it comes 8-9-10, you might be able to take it away from him, that kind of thing. Did you play the hand bad? Obviously, deuce 4 spades is a marginal hand at best. So if you were going to just, I wouldn't be calling all the time with deuce 4 spades against, everybody. But I think there's certain spots where you can do it to try and, mostly take the hand away from the guy if the flop comes scary. What do you think about putting a raise in on the flop with a hand that is pretty well disguised there? Well, the flop is really dry, right? Like 8-5-3 rainbow is pretty dry. So I don't like a raise in that spot. I like flatting there in position to kind of keep your options open on the turn, depending on what rolls off. But Terrence, what do you think about that?
I prefer raising. I prefer flatting with this exact hand. Because it's sort of like you point out, the flop being very dry means you're representing a set, right? If you're raising this flop, you're basically saying I have I'm claiming a set. Yeah, a set. I mean, the two pair are also possible, but most of the time we're talking about sets, right? So, with this, it's sort of a bottom end straight draw too, right? Like, so you can, there are runouts where you make a straight and you're still not that thrilled about it at this point. I mean, if it comes like 6-7, for example, right. That's a straight, but that's how excited are you if it comes 8-7, 6-5 and you have a 4 in your hand. So I'm not looking to build the pot here at this point. The thing that I want to take issue with is not so much the way he played the hand. I think he played the hand well. The issue I want to take is this thought process, and this is really common, I think, among a lot of, I guess, like intermediate level thinking players who are starting to understand the game well, is the sort of, he c-bet, and I think he has ace king, like the putting them on ace king, right? This is such a common thinking error in these sort of games, is that like, this guy raised pre-flop and he bet out, I'm going to put him on ace king, and I'm going to try to take it away from him, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. You shouldn't just assume your opponents have ace king, and that's a mistake. There's no real reason to assume this guy is ace. He's betting into 3 other guys, so I would think he's more. If this is a guy who, if your read on him is right, and he has ace king or a big pair every time he raises an early position, I'm tending to think he actually has the big pair most of the time when it comes 8-5-3 and he's leading into 3 guys from out of position. I don't think that's ace king nearly as often as it is an overpair. So that's the part I don't like. Should I have waited for a brick to come on the river? No. You were fine the way it is.
Yeah, agreed.
Email number 3.
Terrence, Enrique writes, a question for you regarding your MMA training. Is there an end goal you're working towards with this, or is it more just to see what you're capable of? I mean, I can work to try and someday win a circuit ring or maybe a bracelet, but I know that's the end goal for me. Is your goal to make it to an MMA card, maybe farther than that, or are you just working to be more physically fit and punch some guys in the face along the way? Just wanted to send a shout-out between innings from my Round Rock Express game, approximately 7,400 kilometers from Kells. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I assume he means a UFC card, not an MMA card. I've been on
I think
every card I'm on is an MMA card.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a complicated answer. I would say that most of what I do is to see what I'm capable of, and I'm always very big on the path of self-improvement, and I've always been that way. My goal in poker was never to win a World Series bracelet or to win X $100,000 or X $1 million in a year or anything like that. I just sort of, when I played poker full time and I grinded full time, I'm just like, I'm going to try to make as much money as I reasonably can. And when I train in MMA, I'm going to be as good as I reasonably can. And if that results in me getting to the UFC, if it results in me getting into the top 10 of the UFC, if it results in me becoming the world champion, that would be phenomenal. That would be great. I would be super stoked about that. But I mean, for me, it's more about the process than the result. I just want to be as good as I can. I'll say I've always had this sort of alternate end narrative in my head, which is, you know, as somebody who's 35, I've always wanted to be like the guy who could prove that older guys could survive in a sport like this. And you know, by doing things like, you know, just getting a lot of optimizing my nutrition and my sleep and my mobility and all of my performance, and really sort of doing all the outside the gym stuff that you know allows you to have a long, lengthy career. But I mean, I don't know, like I'd also like to have a family and stuff one day, and you know that would become my priority. I mean, Adam can tell you more than anything that, you know, your own hobbies and your own passions stop becoming the priority when you have kids. And you know, so I'll see. I'll just kind of I just take it one day at a time right now. And it was the same way as when I did poker too, right? It's like when I played poker and I grinded hard, it was like sit down at the table. Okay, the guy shows up, try to take all his money. And that's all I'm doing in MMA is okay, we've got to fight. Try to beat this guy up. And then you get the next fight and you're like, all right, I'm going to try to beat this guy up. And then, you know, so I don't have any real long-term plans. Never been a...
Something I wonder is, you know, you haven't lost a fight, and I've heard you say that you haven't found that tough challenge yet, like the toughest challenge you could face. Is that also something you're kind of waiting, is fighting somebody that, you know, could beat you?
I don't know. I mean, the fight that you guys were at, like, you know, I fought a 2-0 opponent who ended up being home champion. I think that was a very tough fight. I wouldn't say I haven't been through tough fights. I would say I haven't been through like an epic war, right? Which is probably a good thing because those take a lot out of you. You know, I haven't been through a McGregor Diaz 2, right? Like that, you know, where you just had to survive and dig deep. And it's, you know, we talked about marathons earlier, sort of like running that last mile of a marathon when your legs aren't moving, that kind of thing. That hasn't happened. But to be honest, it's happened enough times in the gym where I had to push through. I wouldn't say I'm actively looking for trauma and damage, but yeah, I mean, I do want to be challenged, for sure, because you want to know what you're capable of in the moment. JC talked about this in All In or Knocked Out is you know, in sort of the interviews we did afterwards, it was sort of like, well, I wanted to know that I had heart, and then so the one thing I can take away from this is I had heart, and we can all agree, anybody that watched that fight, JC showed a lot of heart. He took a hellacious beating, but he never looked for a way out. He never stopped quitting, or he never stopped. He never quit. So yeah, I mean, there's that sort of noble aspect to it, but I'm not. I mean, this is a dangerous enough sport as it is. I don't need to go out there and try to prove I'm like the toughest dude and do the Homer Simpson defense. Like you can bounce 300 punches off of my face and it doesn't hurt. That's definitely not one of the goals.
Email number
004. Hit my Jones up on the low.
Troy writes, first I want to put my 2 cents in on the new format. I love it. I'm one of the guys who would rather open 3 smaller birthday presents over the course of the birthday week compared to 1 big box on the day of. Glad to hear it. Second, I enjoyed the interview last week regarding the underground and private games in New York. I'm a bit biased, but I'd put Houston's poker scenes up against the Big Apple's or anyone else's. Just ask Antonio Esfandiari or Phil Locke how juicy the right games here can be. But is it bikeable? I don't think so somehow. I had an idea for the show. I'd love to hear listeners' craziest, funniest stories from private or underground games from their respective cities. I've found over the past 20 years that you see so many things go down, good, bad, and funny, that would simply never fly in a casino. For example, several years ago, we saw Sammy Farha beat a whale heads up by letting the game runner's dog decide his action. Sammy put the dog, which was named Bad Beat, in his lap and said, "Bad Beat, bark if I should bet or raise. Stay quiet if I should check or fold." He pet the dog and asked him what he should do on every street. Of course, it worked out for Sammy that time, and everyone got a big laugh except his opponent. It's funny stories like that which, to me, make private games so much more fun than casino poker. Maybe you could solicit craziest, funniest private game stories from listeners submit. I like the idea, Adam. Yeah, if you've got one, write it in, call us up in the voicemail. Make it entertaining, though.
Yeah, flesh it out, the story. Storytelling's an art, but private game stories, I think we've told... I think back to that LA trip, Ross, was pretty hilarious, that private game that we played in.
Yeah, that was pretty unreal.
To in the Valley, the porn game, ever to be known as the porn game. That was pretty funny. And, I don't have a ton of crazy fights breaking out I definitely I've seen some private games where people lost a lot of money that probably couldn't afford to pay it because it was on the sheet. Typically in a lot of these private games, they'll extend credit and it won't be much cash lying around. They don't want to have, people breaking in and stealing all the money. So there's a sheet and then they kind of go around and collect from people, in the days after the game. And I've seen guys lose, 75, 80,000 that I would imagine had a hard time paying it.
Holy
That's
moly.
the worst funny story ever, Adam.
It's not funny. No, that's
You wanted funny stories.
I don't have any funny. I don't have any
lights art story. All right, listeners, it's on you.
Off the top of my head, I don't have any funny ones other than the ones we told from the porn game. That was pretty great. Send them in. All right.
Email number.
It's number 5.
Ryan from Colorado here. This is long, but I'll promise that you'll love the 2 topics. I've been listening since the Rounders days, but I'm a busy dude, so I never wrote in. I know everybody's busy. Saying I'm busy just makes me sound more important, so please read it. I have 2 things I want to talk about: a fun casino game and real estate free rolls, not in that order. First, I put in an offer on a house. The offer was contingent on us selling our house. The seller countered by more or less saying, "We want the same offer, but we want to keep the house on the market." I'm getting free rolled, right? What's GTO real estate strategy? Discuss first, then here are my thoughts. Okay, so discussing first, that's a terrible deal for you. I can't imagine why you would ever want to agree to a deal where if somebody, the seller would keep the house on the market for some length of time where anybody could come along and say, "I'll give you $1 more than this offer," and then they would take it. It doesn't seem like that's anything you should agree to. T, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're much more of a real estate expert than me, but I would imagine that if you were to receive this offer, the best thing you could do in your interest is to sort of counter with, okay, I don't even know if you can do this, but let's say the house is $500,000 and you say, okay, well, I'll offer you $480, and if you can't get it, if you can't get the 500 in 2 months, then you're bound to the 480 offer. That way it's sort of it's a little bit more honest. You're still getting your option, but you're not getting totally free rolled. That's what it seems like to me would work.
Here's his thoughts. If we sign, they can take any higher offer that comes in the meantime. If we don't sign, they'll be on the market stagnating for a few weeks. At that point, if they don't have an offer, the only possibility is their price is going to come down, right? Signing now basically locks in a higher price, which seems dumb. Exactly. So
yeah.
If it goes through the time frame that you agreed to, then clearly the house probably isn't worth what you agreed to pay for it.
This seems like a real estate agent trying to get cute and thinking that you're a moron.
Right. which I'm sure there's some people out there that this works on. But anyway, second, I offer up a fantastic game for people who frequent Vegas. It's called Casino Chicken. The game is simple. While walking through a casino or another crowded place, you pick somebody 20 to 30 feet away and look at their eyes. Then you eyeball a spot right over their head and walk directly at it. Whoever deviates first is the chicken. If you maintain eye contact, you'll violate the game because will walk at their eyes instead of where you're looking when the game started. Invariably, they'll be the chicken and walk out of the way. I made my 66-year-old dad play this game, and he fucking loved it. One morning, there's a subset of the population that is so oblivious that they'll walk directly into you without noticing or caring. Insanely drunk people, slightly less drunk people walk away. Walk around. It requires a special level of intoxication to fall into this one. Couples holding hands, children, Pokemon Go players. Keep up the good work. Try and call Mike more often. We gotta call Mike once in a while. That'd be fun. That's how I was gonna say. Absolutely, Pokemon Go players. So I know you guys aren't but my kid loves it. So I take him to places where there's Pokemon to try and catch. And it's this weird thing because this guy's exactly right. People are walking around, staring at their phones, walking into traffic. Like there's this one spot in this mall in Vancouver, and there's a corner 3 Pokestops. So they all kind of hang out at this one spot waiting for Pokemon to come there. But if you try and park near there, people will walk into your car if you don't actively try and stay away from people staring at their phones walking through parking lots. It's pretty crazy. But Casino Chicken sounds like a fun game. Although I think you might end up bumping into the wrong guy once in a while.
I was going to say you're getting free rolled in a certain another way.
Yeah.
On the Pokemon Go tip, there's actually a strip club about 6 blocks away. The Penthouse, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's one of the oldest strip clubs in Vancouver.
Are you saying strip clubs?
I'm just saying you're a man who's lived in the city your entire life, and you're familiar with the historical landmarks in it.
I know the Penthouse. Yes.
It's known for like having clever signs outside, and one of them, 4 weeks ago said "Rare Pokemon inside."
Yeah, I saw that.
Which was nice. I enjoyed that.
Cool. All right, that's going to do it for this week. I think we're going to come back next week and get an interview in, and try and squeeze it around. Terrence, how's your schedule this week? Pretty tight?
Yeah, I mean, Labor Day works for me because I have the gym is closed for me, so I'm down to do.
How many people are standing outside banging on the doors? Open.
Yeah, no, not me. I'm grateful for every day off I get at this point. I'm training hard, but I'm grateful for the days off.
Good. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Warrant for joining us. Our new sponsor, SharkScope. Thanks to you guys, and thanks to all the listeners for tuning in each week. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Ross introduces himself by the way of the drop, and that's the sort of his thing.
Yeah.
So start with Ross, and then I'll actually say words.